But you need to have a professional demeanor with your students, regardless of your age. Friendly is nice. Overly friendly gets new profs in trouble sometimes because they have these visions of sitting out in the, I think it kind of came from Love Story. I don't know how many of you ever saw that movie. It was so long ago. It was filmed at Harvard. And it was the thought of, you're sitting with your students in a circle out in the quad and the sun is shining and you're all, collaborating and it's lovely. But that can come with students with time. I'm not saying that you should be mean or nasty or unreasonable at all. But a bit of a professional demeanor, taking a bunch of students out for a beer the first day of class is probably not a good. You laugh. But there's times we do it, right? Don't start. You may, in your youth, especially with graduate students and with fourth year students, and we have mature students who could be well older, and you will have lots of students that are older than you. It's weird, but you get used to it. Who may actually become friends. I bet some of you have friends that will endure for life that were your professors throughout one or other levels of school. I have a very, very good friend in Halifax who was my professor when I went through my undergrad, and we've stayed in touch over the years. Now, we're friends. We go out, we drink wine, we eat when I go, and that's fine. But while you're new and while you're teaching them, you have to maintain a certain amount of distance. If you have a small class and you want everybody to go out to Oliver's after the last class, it's hard here because of the drinking age versus the student age, but some of you, if it's a third year class or whatever, or even graduate students, you got to take the whole class. You can't say, okay, why don't the three, we're talking about this, let's go for a beer. You can't let the rest of the class or go for coffee or go for a donut see you attaching to one student. And it's hard because you're probably lonely, especially if you're single and you're out of town and you've just moved cities. And really the only people you're ever connected with are your students. It's an odd place to be, to have to do that. But just maintain your professionalism. Trying too hard to be likable or to be a buddy at the beginning, and you've heard this about teachers, and then you lose control of your class because you're just trying to be too nice, and then you got to drop the hammer halfway through, then they won't like you. You're better off to keep things fairly professional and rigid early on, not to a ridiculous amount, but in keeping with the culture of your institution. And then as you have that respect and control, you can maybe slack things off a bit. That's just always the best way to approach it. I told you about this already. Teaching and learning centers want to help you. That's what they're there for. I will just if you don't write anything else down, write that down. Go immediately. Even if you haven't got a job yet, go back to your institution if you haven't hung around there a lot. How many of you have had contact or a fair amount of contact with your teaching and learning centers? Good. Excellent. They will have things that will help you prepare for your career. And sometimes they don't reach out to grad students as much as we don't reach out to grad students as much as we want to. But they've got lots of good resources, and they're resources worth using. Never discuss departmental things or faculty or staff or other students with your students. Even be careful with other faculty. And I don't think I need to say more than that. Most of you have been TAs and you know it. But again, sometimes a function of being really lonely in a new job in a new city and you're just sitting around one day talking to somebody lets you drop your guard. Just keep that guard there. Be very careful of politics. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a little bit of politics in some academic departments. And maybe not all, but you may encounter a little bit of it in some of them. Give yourself some time to read the who's who. Because the friendliest, most congenial, most helpful person in the room who comes up and takes you over the first day you're there and decides to give you all the skinny on everything that's going on in the department may not necessarily be the safest person for you to hook yourself up with early on. They may, but they may not. So while you want to be friendly and spend time and make friends and enjoy colleagues, be careful. Because sometimes if there's a big war lot of... How many people here in psychology? Anybody? Oh, you're lucky. Like the worst is psychology departments because we're all insane to begin with, which is why we're in psychology. And some of the worst office politics, you can rewind that part too. Some of the worst politics you'll see in departments is in, people will tell you the psych departments everywhere. But the real reason is that they're big departments. And there's a lot of people and there's a lot of different fields within them. But you've got to be really careful of that early on because you can be sort of seen as fresh meat coming in to join a war where maybe there's and there are factions in academic department. Maybe they're trying to place who the next chair is going to be, and there's a faction for this person. You see you're nodding, right? Or the next dean, and there's a faction for this person, and you walk in and it may make you quite popular and have dinner purchased for you a number of times and things. But just be careful. The colleagues and the friends, the peers that you can meet outside of your own department can really be refreshing. Can really be what's going to keep you alive for a little while. Your success and sanity is really going to depend on your peer support, and that's inside and outside. Mentor support, a number of institutions will have mentoring programs, faculty mentoring programs. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. If it works for you, use it. You often can find your own mentor, and mentor doesn't mean somebody old where you are new. We put a program here which we think is going to be really successful, which is people who've been here for 3 years and 2 years and 1 year all together in a group. Because sometimes the person who started at the university 30 years ago came in such a different culture, and the politics were different and the economics were different, that they can't be as much help to you as somebody who just came in 2 years ago and has just gone through tenure or is just about to. So don't think of mentoring that it has to be sort of the oldest person with the newest person. It doesn't. It can be a whole number of things. Teaching and Learning Center, we talked about family and friends. Explain to them. Talk to people about what your job is like. Sometimes we're so busy in it, we get really tired of it and we don't even want to talk about it. All those crazy students that are in your class and all the funny things. Great, hilarious things will happen to you. And this will make for good stories. But just talk to your friends. If you're surrounded by non-academics, you got to get some kind of support system somewhere. It's really hard to be the only academic in your bunch because people don't understand the job. They think you work for 6 hours a week teaching. They do. They think you've got nothing else to do, and then they think you're off from April until September. So you need that core support of people. Realistic expectations. You can't do it all in your first year, folks. You're going to try. But when you get halfway through, if you get tired, read your physical self. But you know what? This has been your dream for a very long time, and this can be the most fun you'll ever have. And all those things about it's entrepreneurial and you don't have a boss and nobody can tell you what to do, that has its benefits. You really are in control of your own universe. It's just a big universe, and it takes a lot of management to control it. But there are a tremendous number of advantages to this job, and you'll get to know all kinds of really cool people. First jobs are tough, but they will stay with you the longest. You will learn the most from them.